What is up, YouTube? We're back with some more Cosmonarchy Brood War castovers, and today I have a very special contestant for you. It's none other than TheShambler as Zerg against Veeq7 as Terran in the bottom left. Veeq did go Terran as random, I am told, by a trustworthy source named TheShambler, who also fought against him. And this is Boskevine by the Beaver99, who coincidentally is actually working on a new 2 versus 2 melee map, actually. So hopefully we get to check that out sometime in the future. Now, it's really weird seeing Boskevine again, because the game's meta seems to have developed really quickly and very far in terms of how much development we've actually seen. It feels like we've actually seen a ton of different adjustments here. And I believe that was Mesk spectating and then getting owned by some networking issues. So you can be happy about that. RIP indeed. We have a barracks opener for Veeq, who's obviously fresh on the scene. This is his first time on the channel as a player. And that'll be interesting to see how he performs overall against TheShambler, who's, of course, got some builds down pat. Although I think the efficiency of the minerals is a little bit lower, so he might get owned by that if he doesn't take a fast expo. There will be a scout, but it's a little bit late for TheShambler relative to Kian, rather Veeq. For some reason, I interpreted the wave emoji as Kian. Don't ask me why, but I guess he's creating a bit of a cameo for himself here by infiltrating my brain. Anyway, the scout isn't really going to be super consequential insofar as it being late. The map distance is such that it's hard to get to your opponent's base before they put down their first structure, especially with how, well-oiled Shambler's stuff is. So that should be fairly straightforward. Now, I believe he did scout the second barracks being put down here, so this is behavior he's very familiar with from Mystery Meat, playing bunker-heavy stuff, which I think did take a little bit of a nerf recently because I reduced the movement speed of lifted structures. It wasn't actually intentional that they could just sort of fly a barracks over your base and scout everything that you own, at least not to the same degree, so I ended up making them about, I think, 15% slower or something, which I think is more than enough, right? It's, at that point, I think we're in a little bit more of a healthier position. Veeq is actually responsible for some of the code changes that made it into the game, so we see his rallies here. Something else that I think, I'm not sure if it was present in the previous castover, I'm pretty sure it wasn't, but when units complete, they actually spawn on the side of the rally point now, which is pretty big, because on maps like Terminus, it means you can wall off without losing access to your unit depending on the spawn. If you want it to spawn on the other side of the wall, you can, and otherwise you don't. So that's pretty nice. I think this needs to be a little bit refined for larger units because sometimes it feels like they almost teleport a little bit. You can actually kind of see that with the Mason. And there was an incomplete watchdog being put down there, which is an interesting choice, but I suppose that's just to delay the expansion and also to get eyes on whether there is an expansion attempt or not. He also is in the general vicinity of where the third could go down, most likely. He could obviously sit over here, but it would be pretty likely that his, the Hydras would walk right into him. There's a very large number of Mavericks. Now, Veeq is perhaps testing the limits of the current setup here. Mavericks did recently receive a change where they only take 5 damage for stims instead of 10, and that obviously allows them to get healed up a little bit faster and just in general compete a bit more. Doesn't look like he even took any damage on his Mavericks so far. I think the Hydras walked up and then turned right the fuck out the other way. They were like, nope, don't think so. And now there is going to be an expansion attempt. It will be slowed down and also telegraphed by the presence of that watchdog. And of course, Veeq's scout is over there. So actually, based on that alone, what you are going to see is a delayed expo. And Veeq should be able to throw down his command center soon, which is already a pretty interesting advantage. It's not the end of the world, obviously, but as Zerg, you don't want to be floating extra minerals if you can help it. And you definitely... Especially, oh, look at that. He even gets to cancel. He's even on top of it in that sense. So he's got plenty of money on the Terran side here. Still no med base. He's actually banking quite a bit of gas, so we'll see what he wants to do about those. Just barely out of view of that Droleth. You have to be pretty much on top of it in order to reveal it. And he's just moving. He's not, he hasn't caught wind of it yet. He hasn't seen it on the minimap. It's in a pretty cleverly hidden spot. So actually the Hydras will fancy their chances. Not really any reaction. There is a little bit of a stim there. You can see the 5 HP in action. And actually, he did attack move and hit the worker in that sense. So that gets rid of the scout. There's a little bit of awkward fighting and posturing from TheShambler. And so he will be run out of here. And at that point, obviously, assuming there are no other units in the general vicinity, Veeq can pretty confidently stash some units over here and try to expand a little bit too, if he so desires. But yeah, with only 5 Hydras, you were pretty much never going to deal with this many Mavericks. I think this is at least more... That was probably more than a single control group at the start of that fight. So, you know, you consider 50 minerals for each Maverick versus 125 gas for the Hydra, as 100 minerals for the Hydra. Then that's pretty significant. Now, the bases are done for both players, but neither of them are actually using them. There are some workers being transferred over, and a single Shaman has been constructed. Another one on the way, as well as a capped geyser. So, Veeq is starting to get access to a little bit more tech. I'm really surprised Shamans haven't been seeing more use, and the Hydras are jumping in just at the perfect time here. Although I think there should be some more reinforcements on the way soon, but this might be a little bit dangerous. Actually, I think Shambler probably did have kill pressure. He started to target down the Shaman, I think maybe a little bit too early. You know, he still has 3 Hydras. They were all fairly healthy. Oh, okay, one of them was kind of low. And you would actually have thought that he could have focused down a couple more Mavericks and made, you know, Veeq panic a little bit. Especially since he didn't really have anything else on his side, right? Now, what is going to happen behind this? Very slow to saturate his natural by comparison, so he's actually going to be behind economically. 20 workers to the 34 workers of Veeq7, so that's pretty noticeable. Of course, you know, a couple of them are building, a couple of them are idling, a couple of them are harvesting gas or whatever, but he's now actually got 2 capped geysers, and that's pretty considerable. So he's actually macroed up quite well here. And without there being a punish in sight, I think the Shambler would have to retreat to his side of the map and then maybe see what he can do there. A little bit sloppy on the target fire. Could have picked off another couple of Mavericks again, but that probably wouldn't have mattered. His window of opportunity is slipping, and I think he's aware of that. He wants to maybe take up arms over here and see if he can, you know, maybe slither his way down over here to the bottom right and smooch the base from the side. Of course, he has nothing defending this, and the Mason Scout is still in the top left for Veeq. I'm not sure if he's forgotten about it or what, but he's adding more barracks behind this. He looks like he intends to chill out quite a bit here with the bio crew. And specifically, you know, it's kind of funny. If he didn't add these, he would have enough to tech up, or, of course, expand instead. He is surely cognizant of a heavy Hydra push, and that's exactly what's coming down the road here. Shamans are not in a great position to receive this. His Mavericks aren't even really in a great position to receive this. And there's no bunkers for defensive play either, so the Hydras could just walk right in and start smooching, but instead they will back up. I think maybe Shambler feels like there's more power behind this than there really are. Like, that's it. He could just shred most of that army. Of course, if the stim happens and then the Shamans start moving in, you would have to start kiting backwards a little bit. But the Shamans move really slowly. And then you've got the, you know, the Mavericks just walking up much faster, right? And so you would actually suspect that Veeq's force would probably get evaporated if managed a little bit better, right? I mean, he feels like he almost has even Hydra numbers to the Mavericks. I feel like he's playing super safe here. He could definitely break Veeq. Bunker has been put down over there to stop the 3rd expansion from going down. Of course, he could just take this one instead, but maybe it doesn't feel super safe. I feel like, yeah, the Shambler is giving him a lot of respect. Veeq definitely hasn't really earned the level of respect here with his Mavericks. A lot of them aren't even in position to help out necessarily. So now the window is once again closing. There was a window opening, and now it's closed again. See what's going on with that, dude. And so, yeah, that bunker, I'm not even sure if it was canceled, but of course it's not a crazy consequential amount of money. I mean, it is 4 Mavericks worth of minerals, actually. So we could have gotten... Oh, no, that's not true. It's 2 Mavericks worth of minerals. What am I thinking? Math is hard when you're trying to commentate, apparently. So this Maverick army will now pour through single file, as all good armies do. It's a bit of a march test here. And they are failing the march. These guys, on the other hand, will get promoted, as was for Todd. Shaman batch is out on the left. You can see this army is very much split. If Shambler had a couple of borrowed units here for vision, obviously would have fared a little bit better there. Looks like a bunch of workers being rallied over here by mistake, but one of them will go ahead and expand down in this direction. And Veeq doesn't want him to be able to rest on his laurels, but a lot of his Hydras are kind of asynchronously sort of scattered around now. At this point, he should just control click these and bring them down. But again, this military force is, you know, they're too busy marching to the tune as opposed to worrying too much about positioning. Now that's been corrected a little bit here. And there's a little bit of a split here where a lot of the Hydras are occupied with just a small number of units, which is allowing a nice concave over here. But it doesn't matter too much because this army should just get focused down. In fact, though, a lot of the, it looks like maybe he was focusing on the Shamans, not realizing he could burst down the Mavericks before they could be healed, and that has led to a bunch of his Hydras dying. He does have more on the way. I don't know that this Hatrosk will be able to be canceled. If he attacks now, he definitely could. But it looks like maybe he wants to bide his time. He doesn't need to wait for any more Hydras to burst this force down, but he doesn't believe. So it looks like he will have to cancel that, in fact, and he is not setting up the base in the back either. Going to instead consolidate this area. Hasn't spread any creep here to try to get some defenses up. And Sacrificial Man walking forward saying, I'll see where they are. Well, his corpse certainly does. You feel bad for that guy. And a third base being taken by Veeq behind this all. So interesting stuff, right? Interesting stuff. He's really just pumping only the 2 units. And he's starting to actually... Oh, he's got his third CC already done. This is actually a 4th base, because this one is just going to float and take this area. So this is a pretty tried and true method. You take a base... you build a base not on location, but lift it off there, and then, move a bunker over. But it looks like this bunker is destined for the main, where, again, there's not really been any attempt to, spread creep around or whatever. Definitely something that could be done. And, these Shambler Hydras can definitely... dive on some of those Mavericks before Veeq has the awareness to strike. Of course, the Azira cores will take reduced damage by a considerable margin. Unfortunately, they were focused down, and there's 2 more back here that aren't doing anything, which is pretty bad, but Shambler should still just win this fight pretty much every day of the week. The Shaman's actually absorbing some of the hits, which is not super great. But I don't know why he's cowering in his base. He can definitely take this. He feels like they are so much stronger than they actually are. I promise you that the Shaman healing matters nothing. Actually, it's a pretty big misbuy here. If you really wanted to use the Shamans, that's fine. But as Shambler is showing you right now, you can just focus down the Mavericks, and this army can't heal enough. You can't heal enough to get rid of all of the Hydras. So again, I think he's just misplaced his Azira cores here. Those definitely could have just bought all the time he needed. This bunker over here, it can unload and charge in, or it can just land over here outside of the range of the Circuith. But I don't know that Veeq has remembered that it exists just yet. He's capping the base in the middle here, which has been changed in a somewhat recent update to not have 3 geysers, because that is pretty crazy. And yeah, there's actually far less resources on this map as a result now. Some creep being slowly spread forward, but again, nothing back here, and no scout, not suspecting the bunker play. And yeah, the Shambler's kind of floundering here. I'm not really sure what has got him so concerned about this. He's not teching up, right? He's not going for Lakizilisks or something, which would just melt this army completely. But he's also not really he's not posturing very aggressively whatsoever. This army cannot fight what he has at all if he just continue, if he A moves and then focus fires a little bit. He's going for the Shamans, but there's only 1 left, and it's 9 HP. 1 single Hydra would kill it, but that's okay. 1 single Hydra will kill a Maverick instead. Dude, that one man, you remember the first guy who was like, I'll see where they are, and this other guy's like, I'll kill him, but he's actually dead. So 1 more Shaman on the way to slowly repair this other one down. If Shambler's astute, he could obviously snipe it. A lot of these units aren't fighting here, so a bit of a sloppy battle on both sides. And now the Shaman just walks up and gets completely domed. And a second one for good measure that will get focused down. And so yeah, once again, we see the Hydra's reigning supreme. No, you can kill those Shambler. It's only 3, and one of them is 1 HP. Oh, okay, never mind, that's fine. And now we see mantles being put down, because behind this, of course, there was an Atlas and a Fountainhead follow-up. Pretty insane that Veeq had enough time to do all of that. Kind of nuts. I definitely would have suspected something a little bit different. But you know what? He's floating a ton of money, right? So what can you say? The Shambler, with his one-track mind, is only building Hydras. He refuses to build anything else. He refuses to go Lakizilisk when that could just utterly annihilate the Maverick-oriented force. And now he's going to spy that there is Tier 2. And there's even 1,000 gas behind this. So to be honest, Veeq could just cancel this round of Mavericks and then maybe chill out for a little bit. And then suddenly he can afford Tier 3, which is shocking. But that's just what happens when you're busy with all of your APM on units. A small band of Hydras now tickling this force. We got some Cataphracts out. They're not the best against Hydras, but if they have a bit of a front line, and even if that front line is just a bunch of fucking Mavericks that are being waypointed out into the open, then that's fine too. You know, no worries there. I think they were just rallied, right? And so this force will get stymied. I'm not sure if that captaincy was canceled. It's a big chunk of change, if not. And yeah, now these Mavericks are just going to end up getting owned as well. Gas mining shut down on the back end. Single Cataphract does finish. One of the mantles has been sniped, but no worries there. And you can see the spread damage here is doing pretty well, but he has to fall back now because he has no backline. He's actually interrupting his own Cataphract's movement by moving the Mavericks further up there, which obviously I believe they would have been able to fit through this, so you could have like dodged them over to the right, and those Hydras will be hunted down mercilessly by the Mavericks, who want vengeance for the fallen 300 mineral, 150 gas assault platform. These captaincies will presumably be finished, indeed, and we have this bunker still sitting here doing nothing, so that could obviously add some pain for the Shambler. He's still going hard with his Hydra band, and actually, you know what? He can still apply some pressure, although one Cataphract is done and another one is halfway down, and now the Mavericks are in a good position to force the Hydras away. They cannot target the Cataphract from that range, so of course they will have to fall back. And yeah, I think at this point the Shambler, even though he's got, you know, Capped Geyser in both bases, he's not banking enough resources to actually go for anything in particular. He was denied a base over here, he's denied a base over here, and on all accounts it seems like he's just going to be behind economically, right? His opponent has 4 bases running, has 93 workers, and meanwhile Shambler's only got a measly 44. Now this base is still not actually being monitored or defended, so he can definitely force a pull of units. Looks like Veeq will spread out his Mavericks over here and just send this paltry force to clear out an admittedly paltry force of Hydras. But as soon as these Apostles show up, right, you have to imagine that will be the big swing. Some more units being aggroed over here. Shambler will have to respond to that. At the same time, he's not really microing his units over here. He has done a little bit more economic damage, but he would need to basically clear out 2 bases for this to be an even game, right? And even then, obviously, there's all the tech that Veeq has. So, a bit crazy there and unlikely to happen. Still hasn't bothered to expand. Some units starting to move out over here. Now, this Cataphract can get jumped on. I don't know that it'll be killed, though, because the guard is there, indeed, so it'll survive with 29 HP. No clerics being made, still a little bit more on the shaman side, and that will be GG called for the first game that Veeq shows up in that is at least casted over. Of course, we will see him take the dub versus the Shambler. So, an interesting game. Definitely feels like the Shambler could have teched out of the situation he was in, or maybe like made a more decisive macro play, but he really wanted to kill Veeq before anything crazy happened. Unfortunately for him, Veeq7 just got back from Crazy Mountain, and he was ready for him. And here's the score screen of that Crazy Mountain game, even including Mesk. You know we're back with Veeq7 versus the Shambler. Veeq7 in this particular case will be Unshambler, in fact, and he will be Protoss, again, randoming into that position, so we get to see a little bit of variety from him. Veeq is fond of doing a number of different things, I think. He's fond of, obviously, spamming Mavericks, as you saw in that last game. Terran Bio is back, question mark? Realistically speaking, I think it just would have been a question of teching out. But you know what? We'll let the Shambler write his, you know, every time he features on one of these, he usually ends up talking about what he could have done better or what he thinks his opponent could have done better or whatever. And so he'll have his own sort of commentary on the game for sure. I'm actually expecting a fast expansion, perhaps? I mean, he's not going for... Oh, no, is he going... No, he is. Okay. He's going to go take a corner base. And that will probably mean that he's very vulnerable in the early stages of this. Reminding everybody at home that at this point you're scouting with one of your workers, you're expanding in a secret base with one of your workers. That means that you will pretty much not have much money. That's the sort of the end of that. And this base isn't even really super high yield, so you're mostly hoping that your opponent doesn't scout you. Now, when I am issuing my worker scout, I'm usually like right-clicking it into my opponent's main, hawking it to control group 1, and then afterwards I like shift-click the nat, then back to the main, and then usually like the third or some other base. I guess that's probably what I would do on Boskevine too, is I would do bottom left, bottom middle, bottom left again, and then bottom right. We actually have a gas deal follow-up with this, which actually probably means the Shambler's just dead. He has no fucking money. He does cancel it, but again, you don't get a full refund there. There will be a Drakadin off of this first gateway coming out from Veeq, so he can pretty easily just go up and pressure. There will be a Quasrock that will be scouted. It will also be scouted that it is very late. So, as a result, I actually imagine... yeah, I'm not quite sure what the Shambler is going to do about this fast Drakadin. There's a Zealot follow-up in the queue, which obviously could have been canceled for another structure if Veeq was interested in that, but it looks like he definitely wants the Zealot, and so he shall have it. This base has not been scouted to my knowledge, so it will indeed go down. And here's the Drakadin once again. So actually what we can do is we can take untick shared vision of the Shambler here, and I guess we have to untick shared vision of Mr. Mesk, President Mesk. And I guess we also have to untick vision of Solar Wrong. There we go. Okay. So this doesn't really tell me anything useful, but okay, it does. It tells me that Veeq has not scouted the Shambler's right side base, the bottom right hand base. He's actually watching for like a Nath Rush or something, it looks like, which is a little bit weird because he didn't scout any gas being harvested, right? That's a clue that you can basically tell, okay, that my opponent is doing something related to Vespene. I guess maybe he could have thought that like the workers switched off gas harvesting after the, like, you know, enough for a couple of Nathrakors was had. But now the Zethrakors will pretty much confirm what he was worst fearing, perhaps. Now here's the thing. This is why I don't think it makes any sense to ever go hatch first in this location. Like, as Zerg, you don't really want to do a corner base super early on, because you need to transfer your workers because you have so few of them, so they all need to be as efficient as possible. And I think that's pretty much a big no-no. So, I don't know what's going to happen with that, but you know what? What matters is that the Shambler is technically got 18 workers, and Veeq has not so technically got 20, but of course one of them is just sitting here doing nothing, so that's cool. Corrects that record, and now he has a small band of Protoss infantrymen who are now moving forward and striking down the first heathenous beast they see. So isn't that cool? Now we do have another round of Zethrakors coming out, so it looks like Shambler wants to fight in the early game, which is interesting. I would not necessarily have expected that one. That's a weird rally for the Scribes, but we'll excuse it for now. And yeah, the Zethrakors are just going to go hide in another side of the map. They do have these ones over here for defense alongside the Circuith. There is a Circuith on this side as well. And I suppose he's pretty confident based on what he saw while he was scouting and what he saw afterwards, is that this is a Zealot opener, or at least a gateway opener, right? Actually, that Zealot doesn't even get the kill. Looks like he won't be killed himself. And hey, look at that. Combining the Drakodin shot with the Ecclesiast means that the Drakodin only needs to take 2 hits to kill the Zethrakor, which is pretty good. Maybe a very specifically good combo against this kind of opener. And I think, based on that alone, we should see some, you know, gas harvesting eventually from the Shambler, but I just noticed he's not harvesting any gas whatsoever. So he wants to make a Zethrakor and Vorvarkor and maybe Quasilis. Yeah, there's a couple on the way, at least one. Yep, there's 2, in fact. And now these Zethrakors are just going to watch the ramp. So, obviously, these units over here could end up being a bit of a pincer, which is pretty legit. He's getting a little bit of HP damage on there, but very slow to react to pull those. Not sure what he would have been looking at the time. Got a lot of Vorvarkors. And these are pretty durable, so you kind of have to watch out for them. This army not around to help. And, yeah, what's going to happen? He's actually tasking them on just now. The rest of his units starting to arrive, closing in on the ranged units and surrounding the Zealots. The Zealots without any help are not going to be able to take down the Vorvarkors nearly as well, because of the fact that their army, or rather their armor bonus, right, results in them hitting twice. Like the Zealot attack hits twice, so it's reduced by armor more. It does have 1 armor pen, but that's not super sufficient against 2 armor. And that does mean that they take a little bit more damage. And there's actually quite a frightening number of Zerg units still alive. I'm not sure if, I mean, 400 minerals in the bank. Veeq seems to have been floating quite a bit of money that could have been units. Now, he can surround this Warden with his Zealots and try to ward off any early aggression. You could put like a Zealot here, and a Zealot here, but he's actually going to move outward, which is a huge mistake in this particular case. He's got to start kiting backward, and if those Vorvarkors catch up with his Zealot, it could be kaputs pretty early. There is a Scribe in the back here, but it's very late building a Warden. At least it does sort of reduce some of the surface area for the rest of the units, but at this point I think it will just be a very quick GG call on Shambler in shambles as the Shambler takes the W. And that is a quick response if I've ever heard one. Definitely think that Vorvarkors in that particular exact matchup might be more strong than people would expect. Of course, it is, you know, 50 minerals on top of the 50 per pair of Zethrakor, so it's like 75 minerals in total. But yeah, with no support, the Zealots are not going to be the ones to answer that out, right? That's something that definitely like more Drakodins would help with, and so on. So an interesting matchup in that particular respect, but the Shambler strikes back nice and quick. Let's get on to game number 3 to decide this. Welcome 1, 2, and 3 to game number 1, 2, no 3, and it is indeed between the Shambler and Veeq7, who is still unshambler. We love to see that, like to see those names. Back in a TVZ, once again random as far as I have been told. We'll see what the Shambler wants to do now. Will he get up to his pesky corner base expanding that's super inefficient ways, or will he just use Vorvarkors to right his sinking ship? We have to find out who actually wins in this particular matchup here. If we're going to have a satisfying conclusion to this here castover series, we shall see. Of course, I usually get both people to tell me which replays were good in a set, but Veeq actually went to bed. So for all I know, the Shambler has handpicked a set of games that make him look very good by comparison, although I guess you can't really say that. Conspiracy theory is true if you're going to go and reference the first game, since it was a little bit silly. But nonetheless, his second game was a bit stronger, and he is indeed going to do a corner-based strat again. I don't know why he thinks this is good. It takes you so long to saturate it. And you can't even transfer the workers very quickly, or at all if there's any pressure in the middle. So you're just sort of counting on your opponent and not scouting it. You can't defend it very well either for the same reason, right? So, you know what? Maybe this is just a shit test. You know, Veeq, next time you send out a scout, you know, right-click here, Shift-Q here. That's all you need to do to counter the strat. And that will put the Shambler into a world of pain early on. Actually, very surprised he got away with getting such a late Quasrock, but perhaps the distance, the ground distance between the bases contributes to that. And so in this particular case, we will see the worker get totally owned. He's trying to escape, but it's not going to work. And so it will just cost Veeq7 a little bit of mining time. His worker nearly upon this naked base with nothing at all. However, he's not fast enough to stop the Quasrock from going down, so he won't be able to harass anything like that. And the Quasrock shall begin. So I think maybe Vorvercors are now being tried against Mavericks and Terran Bio in general. That's what my sort of suspicion, because he found such success with them earlier on. Does have a second barracks being built here on the Veeq side. The Veeq7 side of things. And a Kagrant for a Larvosk, no doubt. Although, actually, no, that must be a Circuith, because he has no gas. And also because, why would you need a Larvosk if you have a second hatch? That's sort of what you would imagine. Really surprised he goes for no gas for so long for this, but technically it is possible to, you know, build 3 units as Zerg, 3 combat units as Zerg with minerals only, which is kind of neat. I could sort of see Vorvercors getting, like, significantly more buffed and then costing, like, 25 gas, but I don't know why you would do that. Like, not really a requirement for anything. He's actually going to scout the top left this time, which shouldn't come in time to do any real damage. Although I think on this particular map you can land a bunker here. That looks that also looks landable. So I think you can land a bunker in 2 spots that just shut down the worker line entirely, especially this one. And also especially if they have something like a Cyprian in them instead of Mavericks for the extra range. Or if they have an Achmed in them. Although I guess the Achmed would get struck down by the Circuith. See, the Shambler spends so much resources in the early game establishing this base that it's actually not... It's only costing him money. It's not giving him any until super late into the game, right? Like if you just expanded to your natural instead, you know, then maybe you're a little bit more vulnerable to an early attack. The Zethicars are going to walk in and just get slapped. And at the same time, some psychological warfare happening, where Veeq7 asks him a question as soon as the units pop up on the screen, calculated by the Polish prodigy. And yeah, since the question was asked, I always play windowed. I don't know what mouse lag he's talking about, though. I would probably need some sort of FP VOD to see that. But maybe he would know better than I. No air defense here, and at this point there has been some gas harvested, and you can tell that because there's a Nathracor pair or 2 on the way. We have some over here as well. And settling in for presumably a macro game. Some spinning Masons. Not sure what's going on. Oh, okay. It's a Maverick move out. This could be dangerous for obviously both sides. Now, I don't know how many Nathracors are actually going to be congealed here. It looks like we just have 6, which is not a crazy number. Yeah, we don't have any more on the way. So 6 alone is not going to be enough to, for example, bust a bunker. However, I think Veeq has taken all of his units, so he has left nothing at home, and I think this is going to be a painful realization for him. Although at the same time, the Shambler doesn't really have much either, so this could end up being a base trade with, of course, a command center on the way on the expansion. It's going to take quite a long time for that one to be done. And if he's just going to waypoint these units out of his base, no, he's actually going to staff his bunker here. So you should actually be able to lift this bunker off and land it somewhere useful. He's going to land it at the... Okay, he's going to do the opposite of what he should do here, but that's okay. He hasn't dealt with Nathracors personally. He's actually going to start evacuating. And you know what? The Shambler can't really do 2 things at once. So with this Gigunda army now visible... yeah, okay, it's a great migration. We're going to see all of the structures be lifted off. Where are they going to go? No, they're just moving. He's going to fucking move into Shambler's base. Okay, this is... I'm not sure why this brief play was sent to me, to be honest. But maybe it's just because of how funny it was. Because the Shambler is definitely fucking dead. And all of the workers are not... Like, look, they didn't even check the nat. So they can just go there. So, pretty good. In fact, I think maybe Veeq even thinks that this is a single base Zerg, but obviously we know it is not. It's just that that can't fucking do anything to that. So, you know, he's maybe hoping that he can train a Lakizalisk or something. He's actually spent all of his surviving gas on more Nathricors, which is not the fucking solution to this problem whatsoever. He will actually stop this command center from going down, although it could probably get finished, especially now, if he were to just move some of his workers. He doesn't actually have enough money to start a new CC anywhere, but that doesn't really matter now, does it? Nathricor being rallied over here, so we love to see that. That'll just be eaten right up without even doing any damage. And there you go. The Hatrosk is down. That's pretty much it. It's going to be GG. Although, I suppose... No, he's evacuated the barracks. Okay, if the barracks had died, that would have been a different story. Because then it could be... It could actually be a base trade, right? But, like, he hasn't killed this command center. He hasn't killed the barracks. The factories still exist. That is the defeat condition. Once this Hatrosk goes down, the Shambler is 100% eliminated from the game. He does have this gigantic group of Nathricors. Well, I say gigantic. It's really probably like a control group. The Mavericks can definitely clean that up. If there's a chance, it's because of these Circuit colonies, but actually the Masons are just going to occupy all the time. Hey, the Mavericks are starting to get torn up here. Oh, wait. But are they? I don't know what's going to happen here. Their bunker is unloaded. And now it's lifted. Okay, there's been a massacre. I think maybe Veeq just responded in a really silly fashion here. Let's just start repairing this bunker. Okay, maybe not. Well, technically his opponent is still mining. He could start mining himself down here. I'm not sure if he knows that. The Nathricors are starting to walk over in that direction, and he's not going to be able to bust this any longer. So that will be a GG called. Very strange stuff. I don't know why there was an attempt to float across the map. It almost looked good, but then he took too long to consider where the other base was. I think maybe he even scouted it with his other Mason, but either way, definitely could have done a little bit more there. He might have pulled that scout back or whatever. So, okay, unfortunately, Veeq will be brought down by silliness in 2 games, and that will be the end of the castover. But I hope you enjoyed nonetheless, and that will obviously be Veeq's debut. So a little bit more successful in the macro games. Definitely showed some stuff that needs to be shored up in terms of, you know, maybe being a little bit less all in, or a little bit less, you know, just send all of my forces to one side of the map and not have any backup plan. But that's okay, you know, that's okay. We all learned somehow. So excited to have him back from Crazy Mountain. Excited to have him in the castover bin, books, whatever you want to call it. And we will be back, I'm sure, maybe tomorrow, maybe a day after, with some more videos. So stay tuned.